It begins with a sound, a chime, a flash of golden light, and for a fraction of a second, the human brain releases a chemical surge more powerful than most drugs on the market. Across the globe, hundreds of millions of people open an application on their phone, tap a glowing button, and pray to algorithms they will never see. They are not gambling. At least, that is what they have been told. This is the Gacha economy, a $70 billion industry built not on selling products, but on selling possibility. And the possibility, by design, almost never arrives. To understand how we got here, we have to travel back nearly a century to a small mechanical device that would quietly rewire the human reward system forever. In 1930, a Harvard psychologist named B.F. Skinner placed a hungry pigeon inside a small box. What he discovered would become the blueprint for every gambling machine, social media platform, and mobile game ever created. Skinner found that when rewards were given on a predictable schedule, the pigeon pecked calmly. But when rewards arrived randomly, unpredictably, the pigeon would peck obsessively, frantically, sometimes thousands of times an hour. He called it the variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it was the most addictive pattern of behavior he had ever recorded. Decades later, casino designers in Las Vegas took Skinner's findings and engineered them into steel and silicon. The modern slot machine was born, with reels calibrated not for fairness, but for what designers called the near-miss effect. Two cherries align. The third stops just one position short. The player has lost. But the brain, fooled by proximity, releases dopamine as if they had almost won. The machine has learned to reward failure. By the late 1990s, this technology crossed the Pacific. In Japan, a new generation of game designers were about to discover that you did not need a casino floor to harvest this same compulsion. You only needed a phone. The word gacha comes from gachapon, the small capsule toy machines that have dotted Japanese streets since the 1960s. Insert a coin, turn the crank, and receive a random plastic figurine. Simple, charming, harmless. But in 2010, a mobile game called Dragon Collection took that simple mechanic and digitized it. Suddenly, the capsule was infinite, the crank was a tap, and the cost was no longer a single coin, but whatever a player's credit card could absorb. Within 2 years, Japanese regulators began receiving alarming reports. Children spending the equivalent of thousands of dollars in a single afternoon. Adults emptying retirement accounts chasing virtual cards. The government intervened, banning one specific mechanic called Kompu Gacha, where players had to collect complete sets of rare items. But the industry adapted. It always does. New mechanics emerged. Pity timers, banner rotations, limited time events, each one a refinement of the same psychological lever, dressed in brighter colors and friendlier characters. By 2020, the global gacha market had eclipsed the entire box office of Hollywood. One game alone, Genshin Impact, generated over $5 billion in its first 3 years, and it had done so without selling a single product. Only chances. To understand why gacha games are so effective, you have to understand that they are not designed by accident. Every animation, every sound, every probability rate is the product of teams of behavioral scientists, statisticians, and user experience engineers. The first principle is anticipation. Before the reward is revealed, the screen fills with light, music swells, characters dance. The brain, primed by the ritual, begins releasing dopamine before the outcome is even known. Studies have shown this anticipatory release can exceed the reward itself. The second principle is loss disguised as gain. When a player pulls and receives a low-value character, the screen still celebrates. Confetti, sparkles, a congratulatory voice line. The player has functionally lost, but every visual cue tells them they have won something. The third principle is the sunk cost spiral. Once a player has spent $50 chasing a character, walking away feels like accepting a $50 loss. So they spend another $50, then another. The mathematical reality of the pity system, where guaranteed rewards lie just out of reach, transforms every quitter into a quitter only one more pull away. And then there is the social layer. Discord servers, Twitter showcases, YouTube celebration videos. The biggest spenders, known as whales, are not hidden. They are celebrated. Their lucky pulls become viral content. Their misery is monetized twice. What emerges is not a game. It is a behavioral feedback loop, refined across millions of users in real time, optimized to find each player's individual breaking point and stay just below it. In 2021, a Belgian father discovered that his 14-year-old son had spent over 37,000 euros on a mobile game in the span of 6 months. The money had come from his grandmother's inheritance account. In South Korea, a country where mobile gaming is woven into daily life, hospitals now have dedicated wards for digital compulsion disorders. The average age of admitted patients has dropped, year after year, into the early teens. In China, regulators imposed a strict limit, only 1 hour of mobile gaming per day for minors, and only on weekends. But enforcement remains a constant battle against accounts borrowed from parents, grandparents, and strangers online. And in the United States, where regulation has lagged behind nearly every other developed nation, the stories accumulate quietly. A single mother who lost her car payment, a college student who dropped out to chase virtual currency, a veteran who used his disability check to pull for a single anime character. The industry's response is consistent. These are extreme cases. Most players spend nothing, the games are free, and technically every word of that defense is true. But it obscures the deeper architecture. Because in the gacha economy, the free players are not the customers. They are the audience, the product, the social proof that lures the whales into the deep water. Slowly, the world is beginning to push back. Belgium and the Netherlands have classified certain gacha mechanics as illegal gambling. The United Kingdom is conducting parliamentary inquiries. Australia has begun mandating disclosure of pull rates. Whistleblowers from within the industry have begun to speak. Former designers describing internal meetings where psychological vulnerabilities were mapped like military targets. Former executives admitting that the goal was never engagement, it was extraction. But the industry is not standing still. As regulators close one loophole, new mechanics emerge. Battle passes, skin lotteries, limited time bundles that vanish if not purchased within minutes. The names change, the architecture remains. And perhaps the most unsettling truth is this: the techniques refined in gacha games are not staying in games. They are spreading into social media, into education apps, into dating platforms, into the financial markets themselves. The variable reward schedule, once a curiosity in a psychologist's lab, has become the underlying grammar of the digital economy. The chime, the flash, the almost. We have been trained, all of us, to chase rewards that the system has been engineered never quite to give. The question is no longer whether this architecture works. The question is what kind of world it builds when it works on everyone, all the time. The machines have learned how we work. The only remaining question is whether we will learn, in time, how they work on us.